Welcome to a Graveey and Ginger Snippet, where we talk about film theory in about 10 minutes. I'm Graveey.
And I'm Ginger.
I'm giving a warning with this episode. We briefly mention topics of sexual assault. If that is not something you want to hear, go ahead, turn this off, or exit the room, however this works for you. Today's topic is voyeurism in film. Let's be clear, watching films itself is rather voyeuristic, but that's not our main focus on today's episode. Rather, we'll be talking about voyeurism within film, so the characters are acting as voyeurs.
And this is not a commentary on the actors themselves. It is a commentary on the characters they are portraying. So this is nothing against any actor who has taken a role or even the people who have casted them.
Yeah, we're attacking the writers, I suppose.
Or the directors, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So there was a video that we both watched. You recommended it to me, Ginger.
Yes.
It is called The Ethics of Looking and the Harmless, in quotations, Peeping Tom. It's by Pop Culture Detective. I would highly recommend this video. It's very interesting, and it brings up excellent points about the harmless peeping Tom.
Yeah.
So basically, what a harmless peeping Tom is, it's that... Is it always a protagonist? It's not necessarily always a protagonist.
I think it is. In the case of the harmless peeping Tom, it is always the protagonist. Obviously, there are other forms of voyeurism where it is the villain or the creep or, someone who we don't root for.
Yeah.
But I think this particular video was focusing solely on male protagonists.
Yes. So typically it's a male protagonist, and they are essentially spying on a woman through a window, or she asked him not to look, and then he looks anyway when she's dressing or undressing, something like that.
Yes.
So he brought up so many examples of when a woman is like, don't look, and the guy's like, okay, whatever, and then he adjusts a mirror so he can see her, or he turns around and she's like, what the heck, something like that.
I feel like they're a little different. Like the harmless peeping Tom doesn't have the trust of the woman who he's spying on, and so maybe it even is a little less dastardly because there is no expectation of trust. I mean, obviously he's gross because he's looking through this window, but the woman hasn't directly asked him not to.
Right.
And so
It's implied that you shouldn't be doing that.
right. But there's nothing illegal about it, I guess. Whereas when the woman says, turn around, I'm going to change, because they're sharing a 4x4 space together, and he says, okay, turns around and then glances over his shoulder, not only is he invading her privacy, but he is also breaking the word that he has just given her that he's not going to look.
Right. And I bring up this trope because it is so common in movies.
Rom-coms and comedies especially.
Yeah. Frankly, it's disturbing.
Yeah.
To think that a guy would, or just anyone, it could be anyone, would break their word and look at a person undressing is just disgusting.
And I think the biggest problem with it, especially in like rom-coms, is that it's considered like a profession of interest almost.
Yes, uh-huh.
He turns around because he just can't resist it, or he just can't help because she's so beautiful. And she does even eventually often will reward it.
Mm-hmm.
She'll, they kiss or they have sex later. And it's like, oh, him looking, despite the fact that she asked him not to, was like beginnings of flirtation almost.
Right. And so it's easily forgiven, first of all. And then, like you said, it's rewarded. And that's a behavior that should not be rewarded. And the fact that it's present in movies and it's saying, like, look, like, you can do this. It's expected. We expect you to behave like this, especially because it's typically men. It's like, we expect men to break their word and look at a woman undressing.
This is not, rated R movies that we're not showing to children.
No, these are like PG-13s.
And I'm sure...
Or even PGs.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some PG examples that imply it,
Actually, what is Jungle Cruise rated?
I think it's PG-13.
Is it PG-13?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was one of the examples that Pop Culture Detective provided. Like, he gave a series of, like, women asking, don't look at me, I'm going to change. Like, a bunch of those. And then he says something, and then it goes to the man looking at the woman. And the fact that it's present in the movie, it's strictly for sex appeal. Because we see what the man is seeing.
Which is the real problem, I think. Because if we were seeing the guy looking, then we could say, oh, he's looking, he's breaking her trust. But we are seeing what the guy sees, and therefore we are becoming voyeurs along with him.
We are breaking her trust.
We are breaking her trust. She has asked us not to look, asked him not to look, and because we are watching through his point of view, we are also looking.
Yeah, and this is where it's important to say that, like, we're not necessarily talking about the actors, we're talking about the characters.
Right.
Because the actors, I mean, they're paid to do this, so hopefully they're okay with this.
They're aware of the shots that are being taken.
Right.
And the angles of the camera, right? This is not a surprise that when they sit down for the first premiere of the movie, they're like, oh, no, right. They know.
Yeah.
It's about the characters because we relate so heavily to these characters because that's what we're supposed to be doing. It's not a good movie if you're not.
Right.
And we either are going to sympathize with the woman who's being spied on, or we are becoming the peeping Tom who is looking at her for sexual gain.
Exactly. And so it's the fact that we are seeing what he sees that makes it so much of a problem. Because you told me about an example in a show, was it called Normal People?
Yes.
Do you want to give that example?
Yeah, so Normal People actually has the antithesis of this problem, in which a guy is showing his friend his girlfriend's nudes, which, you know, is a bad thing. You're not supposed to do that. It's a breaking of trust. And even though it was not explicitly said, like, don't show these to people, it's inherently understood. And instead of showing us the phone where the nudes are present, we see the friend's reaction saying, don't show me those, and then he pushes the phone away. And so we only see the denial of the voyeurism, and we never participate in the voyeurism, which is very uncommon. Like in the show Sex Education, a girl's nudes are leaked, and she's like, oh no, my nudes were leaked. And she's very upset that everyone sees them, but we also see them. It's pointed directly at the camera, and we see every detail, as opposed to Normal People, which shows us nothing.
Yeah. So another more intense example of this is in the movie A Promising Young Woman, which this movie is considered a rape revenge film. And there is a scene where you find out that a victim of sexual assault, she had a video taken of her. But the thing is that we never see the video. The filmmakers did a really good job of this because they didn't glorify the sexual assault. They didn't show it to us. Because there are weird people out there, I'm going to be real, and they would probably enjoy seeing that in a movie. So they totally cut that out so we don't even see it. And that's like the appropriate way to handle a rape revenge film. And like portraying that scene, we see people watching the video, we hear it a little bit, but we are not in the moment, we are not betraying the character's trust.
Yeah. So there's this other movie called Bad Times at the El Royale, and there's a tape throughout the movie, and there's a character who has purposely not shared this tape that he has because the person in the tape was kind to him, and so because of that, all of the characters see it. They look at the film, and they know who it is, but we as the audience, the tape remains protected by this character, and so we as the audience never ever witness who it is, and we are just kind of left to wonder. And even on the internet, people wonder. And I think the wondering kind of shows how expected it is that we do see these private, intimate moments of people.
And those are moments that we shouldn't expect to see.
Yeah, the fact that we want to see them and we expect to see them shows how much movies have influenced our curiosity and what we are curious about.
Yeah.
I think that William Goldman, the author of The Princess Bride, put it the best when he wrote The Princess Bride and Buttercup and Wesley were reunited. He specifically does not include the moments in which they were reunited because it was a private, integral part of their relationship. He felt as the audience we did not deserve to know and be a part of that moment. And I think that maybe other movies should understand that we as the audience don't necessarily need to be privy to everything.
Which was something I never really thought about. Respect the characters. That's not something that you really think about. They're just characters. They don't matter.
Yeah, they're not real people, and so we feel like we can have more of them, but we can't. And we shouldn't.
Yeah. This kind of reminds me of treating AI with respect.
Yes.
It reminds me of that. The characters are not real, but we should treat them as if they are.
But they are people.
Right.
Like, they're not real, but they're being portrayed as people. And so if we are okay with looking at characters that way, what is to stop us from looking at our neighbors, our family, our friends that way?
Yeah. Voyeurism in films is really interesting, and I'm very glad that you brought it to my attention, Ginger, because these were not things that I had thought about before, and I'm glad that I'm made aware of them now. So thank you very much.
Of course.
And thank you very much for listening to a Graveey and Ginger Snippet. Have a nice afternoon.